Hi everyone, welcome to my live on-class recording for Thursday, January 9th. Unfortunately, there have been some issues with Collaborate, so we're giving the engineers some time to fix it and recording on live lessons. Our lesson title today is Unit 3, Lesson 6, Bob Dylan. Our objectives will be learning about the music of Bob Dylan, begin to develop an understanding of the historical, cultural, and artistic influences on Dylan and his music, and begin to develop an appreciation for Dylan's influence on contemporary music. We'll also be learning about some of the other artists associated with folk rock music of the 1960s, and then we will also be watching and learning a little bit about music theory. Our introduction, excuse me, was a question about Tommy by The Who. It was considered to be a blank, a rock blank. And I'm just wondering, normally you would send me this answer in a note in class, and I have kind of a hint on the screen. Well, no, that's The Who, that's the owl. No. But Tommy was considered to be a rock blank, 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 blank opera. And I'm hoping you got that one right. There's a picture of Bob Dylan. By 1964, Bob Dylan had already released 3 acclaimed folk albums. The heir to the musical tradition of Woody Guthrie, Dylan, who was born Robert Zimmerman on May 24th, 1941, in Duluth, Minnesota, originally wanted to be a rock and roller. In his high school yearbook, he stated his goal in life was to join Little Richard's band. But pigeonholing Dylan as either a folky or a rocker, or even a country artist, is impossible. It might be best to simply call him one of popular music's greatest and most prolific songwriters. He is also one of its most literate artists. He even changed his name as a tribute to Dylan Thomas. I'm scrolling down. Dylan's early folk songs, including Blowin' in the Wind, The Times They Are a-Changin', and Masters of War, express the growing political awakening taking place among young people in the early 60s. A tremendous political and social upheaval was just beginning to shake America, and Dylan was there to both document it and express some of its most powerful ideas in his music. While driving in his car in 1964, Dylan was amazed by the fact that every song on his radio was by the Beatles. Rather than feeling threatened by a new sound, Dylan seized the opportunity to change and grow as a songwriter. In 1965, he recorded his first rock album, Bringing It All Back Home. While some of his most devoted folk fans were shocked by the record, Dylan's stature as an artist and counterculture figure grew. He not only pushed his own music into new and fresh directions, he helped cause an upheaval in rock and roll. Other groups began to see rock music as something more than fun music with a good beat. Folk rock performers like Peter, Paul and Mary, Joan Baez, the Byrds, and the Mamas and the Papas, and Joni Mitchell joined Dylan on the cutting edge of popular culture, mixing the exciting sounds of pop music with the introspective lyrics and political sting of folk music. In August of 1965, Dylan released perhaps his best rock and roll album, Highway 61 Revisited. The album contained some of his finest songs, including Desolation Row, Highway 61, and Like a Rolling Stone. Dylan expressed the growing dissatisfaction young people were feeling with the world, in particular the war heating up in Vietnam. Dylan's songs in this period of his career asked tough questions to a rock and roll beat. In terms of influence, one of the most exciting things about Dylan's rock music was the influence it had on some of the biggest names in pop music, including the Beatles. You'll take a closer look at that in the next lesson. Our vocabulary is Woody Guthrie. He was the most important folk singer and songwriter of the first half of the 20th century. Guthrie's music was infused with a political sensibility. He wrote hundreds of songs, many of which remain folk standards today, including his masterpiece, This Land Is Your Land. Dylan Thomas was Bob Dylan's real name. Oh, I have a couple movie clips. You don't have to send me anything you found interesting. I had questions to go with the other. I have 3 movie clips for you to go with this lesson, and then I have a theory movie clip to go with the next part of this lesson. Obviously, I'm limited in Screencast-O-Matic only gives you 15 minutes of time. So the movie clips you can watch, they are attached in Schoology. And then the specific one that you want to use for the assignment is the music theory video. And we're going to move on to that right now. So theory, we're going to learn a little bit about theory. Some of you might know some music theory, some of you might not. But the first thing you want to do is to know that these words today are going to spell a word. Now, in music, you have what's called 5 lines and 4 spaces. It's called a staff. And you have little sayings to go with it to name the notes. From the bottom up, around the lines, it would be every good boy does fine is one of the sayings you can use. E, G, B, D, and F. And note again, those notes go around the lines in treble clef. That's that squiggly backwards S you see at the beginning under music spelling. You also have notes that spell that stay inside of the spaces in between the lines. They spell face. From the bottom up, F-A-C-E. Those notes go in the spaces or in between the lines. So if you were to put the lines and the spaces together, you would have E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. You can also go above the staff and below it, but today we're just staying right in the staff. So the first question is number 1. The bird is in A, and you have 4 blanks. So if you go to the first note, it has, you count up from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, and you say, oh, it's in the 3rd space. What letter is in the 3rd space? And you go, 1 is F, 2 is A, 3 is C. So you would put a C right there. Then the second note you have is also in a space. It's in the 2nd space, so you'd count up 1, 2, and you go 1, F, 2, A, and you'd put an A down underneath that A. The 3rd note you have is around a line, and it's around the 2nd line, counting from the bottom. So you go up here and you go, the first one is E, but the one that goes around the 2nd line is G. So you put a G here on the line. And then the last note you have is around the 1st line. And a note around the 1st line is an E. So you put an E here. The answer would be cage. The bird is in a cage. C-A-G-E. And you continue doing that for the whole entire rest of the page, and each one will spell a word. You turn in your lines and spaces page that you see here. The next page is the crossword. You do not have to do that. It's a little bit confusing. So we're just going to stick to pages 1 and 3 today. Now look at number 1, page 3. You look at and you go 1, 2, 3. This note goes around the 3rd line. Well, maybe you don't remember every good boy does fine goes around the line. So you have to go back, look at your lines and spaces and go, what note goes around the line? And you count up 1, 2, 3. It goes around the 3rd line. That is a B, and you go back to here and you put a B right there. I hope I didn't just pause the recording. And then next, you have a note that goes around the first line. Maybe you don't remember, so you go back here. You go, what note goes around the first line? It's an E. You go, okay, well, I've got two that go around the first line, E, E, and you've spelt the word B, B, E, E. The next note is actually below the line, and we didn't go over this, so you're going to have this twice, right here, actually, I think 3 times, and right here. That's a D. If you think about what letter comes in the alphabet before the E that goes around the first line, it's a D. So that would be a D for number 5. And then you go, oh no, look, it's in a space. The second letter here is in a space. It's not around a line. It's in the second space if I count from the bottom up, which is what I'm supposed to do. And so you go back to this page and you go, where's the spaces? Oh, look, they're over here. Where's the second space? Space, line, space. A. So you put an A there, and then you have another D, because I gave you that answer already. So 5 is dad. D, A, D. And of course, number 6, you go, wow, look, I have to go around the third line. Every good boy does fine around the line. E, G, B. 1, 2, 3. So you would put an B here. The next line is face. It goes in the spaces. First space is F, second space is A, third space is a C, fourth space is an E. Our note is around or in the second space, so it is an A. So you have a B and an A, and I just moved the page. Oops. And you continue doing that all the way through. Do the best you can on this. Really think about it and use this page for the help, and also draw the notes on the staff, draw 5 lines and write them out and count up and down and do EGBDF, every good boy does fine around the lines, and FACE in the spaces, and become familiar with it. It is worth 30 points, I think. Remembering this page is worth 10. You skip turning this one in. You turn in page 3. And this one is worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This one is worth 20. So you have 30 points. I have to go because we're going to run out of time. So your independent practice turn into 2, not 3, 2 completed music theory worksheets. Look over the chart on page 230 and read about the Rolling Stones on page 341. Check Schoology for any other updates, and if you have any questions, my email is also attached in Schoology. And have a great day, everybody. Stay warm. Thank you.